stand up for. Right. Hello everyone, welcome to this live stream, to my live stream here at MELHORE SEU INGLêS. My name is Érika. Hello everyone, hello Glaucio, Luke, Núria. It's been a while, but now I'm back with some live streams, hopefully at a regular pace for a few months, for the next couple of months. The idea today is to talk about some phrasal verbs. And also, before I start talking about these phrasal verbs, I would like to give you guys a suggestion on how to work with them, how to learn them. So what I do and what my students do is you choose a piece of material, a book, a TV show, a movie, a podcast. In my case, I'm back on the wagon with the podcasts. Anything. It's not difficult, right? It's not, you can find this material anywhere. So choose something that you like. This is very important, something you can have fun with. And listen to the material. If it has a transcript, it's even better. But if it doesn't, work with whatever it is that you have. Take some notes. And what I do is, as I listen to a podcast, because that's what I like to work with, I pay attention at expressions, words, verbs, anything that, especially at this point, I would like to incorporate in my toolbox. I would like to use, and it's something that I usually know the meaning, but I don't actually use this piece of information, right? So what I do is I listen to the whole podcast and I always take a few notes. It could vary from 2, 3 to 5 pieces of information, like phrases or words. I write them down. After that, I work with that material. So at this point, because I'm always changing the way I practice, and my students too, I've been using tiny cards. I don't know if you guys know what tiny cards is. It's an app and a website. It's connected with Duolingo, and it's a flashcard system of the flashcard systems that I know, including Anki and Quizlet and Tiny Cards. Tiny Cards is the one I prefer, is the one I like the best at this point in my life. Okay, this is a question of preference. So I create my flashcards with this material I collected from the podcasts, and I look them up. I have been making my flashcards using the translation in Portuguese because I wanted to change. I always did the flashcards, made the flashcards with English on both sides of the card, but now I feel that I'm actually learning some Portuguese too. So I write in English in front of the card, and on the back I write in Portuguese, what it means in Portuguese. It's interesting because in many, I would say 99% of the situations, what I get in English does not have a literal translation to Portuguese, so I need to know what it means exactly. Anyway, this is how I have been using tiny cards, and today I'm going to show you 5 phrasal verbs that I heard in some of the podcasts. I can later tell you which podcast I've been listening to at this point in my life. But let's get started with the first phrasal verb. So let me just say hi to you guys who have arrived here. Let's see. We teach. Hello, we teach. Art Murad. How are you guys doing? Bunny Rabbit, Mugni. We teach. Do you make podcasts? How can we listen to them? Yes, we, as a matter of fact, record podcasts, and you can listen to it everywhere, I guess. I think anywhere. It's called MELHORE SEU INGLêS. It's the name of our course. It's on our account here on Instagram, MELHORE SEU INGLêS. Okay, so you can just follow us there. I have a Samsung phone, so I don't have an iPhone, so I don't use, if I had an iPhone, I would use iTunes. But there are many apps that you can use to listen to podcasts. The one I use is called Castbox. It's just something that has been working for me, so I use it. I don't think there is anything special about it. There are many other apps that are as good everywhere, so I would recommend you guys to keep trying to find something that is good for you. Okay, so hello everyone. Hello. Merhaba. Oh my God, I'm back on the wagon of listening to podcasts, but I'm out of the wagon of studying Arabic. I need to do that soon, fast. First phrasal verb today is, I think you guys know what this is, to stand up for. Okay, so before I give my examples, I would like you guys. So it's here, it's spelled out here, okay? To stand up for something. What does it mean to stand up for something? And can you give me examples? Hello, Miriam, how are you? Hello, Alan, Tanya. Can you give me examples using this phrasal verb, to stand up for? To stand up for something. Do you know how to use this? I know I have to wait for the a little bit because of the connection, right? But I will tell you now. To stand up for something. Okay, Kayam, thank you. You don't know what it means. It's very useful, okay? When you stand up for something, you fight for something. You fight for something that is important to you. Hello, teacher Leo. So you fight for something. So you can fight for many different things. Okay, so for example, let me give you some examples. So also it means to defend someone. That's a good idea too. Okay, to defend someone who is being criticized, someone who is being attacked. So especially in this case. Okay. Get up, stand up for your right. Yes. I actually talked about this phrasal verb in the beginning of this year. I'm just reviewing here. This is another tip. Review is the secret to learning something, in my case, to learning a language. And I don't usually remember things that I see only once. I need to review every now and then, go back to that piece of information and use it like I'm doing here. Hello, Andrea. So you have to stand up for what you believe in, would be an example. I'm going to read you some examples here. They're going to stand up for a free press, because that's something important to have, a free press. If you do not stand up for yourself, people will not respect you. So it is important to stand up for ourselves, to defend ourselves, to make a stand. It's important to stand up for values, for those values, for some values. What are some values it's important to stand up for? Hello, Kayam, I stand up for freedom. That's perfect. Because freedom is something which is really, really important for a lot of people, if not for everyone. So I stand up for freedom is a perfect example. And I'm going to end here with stand up for, and I'm going to move on to sign on. So I think I read this one on probably the New York Times, which has the kind of vocabulary that we don't see frequently in spoken language or, talking to someone in the streets. So I saw this phrasal verb there as I was reading the article, and I wasn't sure. I kind of suspected it meant something, because when you sign something, you are kind of committing yourself, right? You're writing something on a paper saying you agree with something. But I wanted to make sure that the combination of sign and on meant that. And yes, it means to agree to participate in something. Okay, I'm not gonna even ask you what it means. So it means to agree to participate, to take part in something. So some examples. So this is more technical, and it has a lot to do with businesses and the work environment. So if you are working at something at a big company, for example, you might see this more often than other people. And some examples here so you can understand a little better. Companies have signed on as business partners with high schools across the country. So you might also see this the same way as I did. I read this in an article in the New York Times. You might see this phrasal verb a lot in the news, okay? What is the past of sign? Sign is a regular verb. So you tell me, Kayam, what is the past of sign? I will wait here. That's a very good question. Okay, it's not irregular, it's regular, so it's supposedly easy. Write it for me here, for us, for all of us, please. Okay, so to sign on. What else? They've signed on to the new project. Perfect, Kayam. That's it, signed. Okay, so the pronunciation is signed. Signed. We don't pronounce the G, we don't pronounce the E. Signed only. Hello, Josie. So they've signed on to the new project means they agreed to participate in the new project, right? The senator has signed on to the president's tax policy. So the senator has agreed to participate, to take part in the president's tax policy. There you go. Another example. That was the first university to sign on as an employer of national service. And then we'll talk a little bit as what we use. We'll talk a little bit about what we use after sign on, okay? So here it's as. So that was the first university to sign on as an employer of national service. They signed on with a startup craft beer distributor. So you can see here many examples where the meaning is to agree to participate in something, but I can see some patterns, and this is another tip I'm going to give you now. When you find this piece of information, either by reading an article or listening to it, I would strongly recommend that you use Youglish or Google, but in Youglish you will be able to find real examples of people really using that piece of language, that phrase or whatever. Okay, so, and what I'm doing here is I'm collecting many instances in which we can see the word, the phrasal verb sign on, right? And from that, I have here 5 examples. You could have more. The more, the better, because then you can find the patterns yourself, and then you don't need to memorize much. You don't have to memorize, read the whole definition in a dictionary or something. You can yourself make the distinction, pay attention. How is this word used in a sentence? So, Kayam, a question here. So, to sign on, it's like to agree with something by a document. Yes, yeah, it shows formality. And usually you need to really actually sign a piece of paper to show that you agree to do that. Okay, so if you're talking about someone signing on to do something, it infers that there is a document, a legal document that is being signed. Okay. Hello, Davi. Thank you. All right. Hello, Sami. So that's sign on. Now, I think you will know this next one, the next phrasal verb, which is go after. So I'm not going to explain to you now what it means. I would like you to tell me, because I think this is a more common and maybe informal phrasal verb. Hello from Ireland. Adriano, really? Dublin. Are you in Dublin? So, go after. What does go after mean? How do we use it? I'm gonna give you a chance to answer. 1, 2, 3. Kayam, do you know? Adriano, how long have you been in Ireland? Hello, hello, hello. All right, so go after means to go after. You go after someone, usually to stop someone for some reason. So, and there are different situations in which you can use 1 hour from Dublin. Nice, cool. What do you think of the Irish accent? Is it okay for you to understand? Kayam. I think that go after, it's like to go through, not go through, but it means to, you know, someone is ahead of you, is leaving, is going away from you, and then you run towards that person, trying to stop that person for some reason, okay? There can be many reasons, different reasons. One of them can be to hunt someone down. That's what the police do. They hunt criminals down. They go after criminals. But you can also pursue something, not only people. You can pursue something. You can pursue someone. Hi, Yotson. How are you? Okay, so it doesn't mean to go through, but to go after someone. Almost 10 years. Wow, so you've become a native. Hello, Luciano. How are you doing? Right, so Luciano might have heard this before because I'm repeating myself here. This is the second time I talk about these phrasal verbs. I'm just testing a new format. If it works, these lives will become more common again. But this is a new format for me. So, to go after means exactly that. There is someone or something going in the direction that is opposite, like away from you, and you want to stop that thing or that person. So some examples: you'd better go after her. You'd better, this is a suggestion, right? You'd better go after her and tell her you're sorry. So what can we imagine here? That there were two people, they were in a fight. The woman, her, started moving away from the other person, and then there is this suggestion: you'd better go after her and tell her you're sorry. So this is one example. The other one is the police example, to hunt someone down. So the police went after him, but he got away. He escaped. Todd seemed pretty upset when he ran out. So I'll go after him and see how he's doing. It's nice because here you can picture in your head the situation, what's happening. And usually it's a negative situation. There is a fight, or there is a crime, there is something wrong happening. And then in two of the sentences that I said here, people are going after somebody else to apologize, to ask what's wrong, to try to make amends, to try to say you're sorry, and so on. Let's see two more examples. Go after what it is that creates meaning in your life. This is a different example, right? Because here there is nothing negative. Well, what is negative is the lack of meaning in somebody's life. This is not good. So, but this is a solution, right? The solution is go after what it is, whatever it is, that creates meaning in your life, that brings meaning to your life. And the last example is, we can go after new jobs in growing industries. We can go after new jobs in growing industries. So nowadays, there are many industries that are expanding, a lot of job offers. And what do? You go after these jobs, okay? These job positions, these new jobs. So to go after something or someone. That's grand for you? Is that an Irish expression? I've never seen this before. That's cool. Sounds very cool. All right. That one is really, to go after someone is harder than to sign on. Hello, Lily. How are you doing? All right. Number 4. And it will be only 5 phrasal verbs today, okay? So number 4 is to take apart. And to take apart is a phrasal verb that I think you guys know too. Because it's very intuitive and visual. You can kind of visualize what's going on here when you use this phrasal verb, to take something apart. To take something apart. What does it mean? How can we use this phrasal verb? So, if you guys want to ask questions, you can just tap in the question mark here and I will answer them, okay, the questions. But anyway, take apart. When you take something apart, you separate this object into its components, into its different parts that it is made of, okay? Hi, Lily. Yes, I'm back. I'm back with the live streams. I think it will be around this time, okay? If you guys want to know, it will be always around this time. So, when you take apart something, you have a whole, you have something like an object, and when you take apart, you separate all the parts that constitute this object. So, some examples here. When the clock stopped, he took it apart and found what was wrong. How common is this? Pissed off. You know what I'm gonna do, Davi? I'm gonna write this down, and this will be a topic for our next live stream. To be pissed off at someone or something. Pissed off. Because people are always asking me this. Pissed off. Yes, there you go. Let's see some examples. So the first one is to take a clock apart. What does it mean? You have a clock, and in this case, it has stopped working. So this guy is taking it apart, is taking the clock apart to try to find what the problem is, where the problem is, what he can do to fix it, okay? Susie loves taking electronics apart and figuring out, and this is another phrasal verb, how to put them back, another phrasal verb, back together again. So 3 phrasal verbs in this long sentence. Susie loves taking electronics apart and figuring out how to put them back together again. Okay, so here what she's taken apart are electronics. Any piece of any device, electronic device, piece of equipment. Kayam, I took the sandwich apart and gave the bigger part to my friend. Yeah, but you took a piece of your sandwich, I would say, because when you take something apart, it is made of specific parts. If you think of a clock is, you know, there are a lot of screws and how do you call those things? I knew those words. Let's check here. Not gear, but there is another word for this. Engrenagem, né? It's not gear. It's pegs and I forgot now. Anyway, a sandwich is, you know, when you take a piece of it, you're taking a piece of the bread, a piece of the ham, a piece of the lettuce, a piece of the tomato, everything together. You're not, if you take it apart, if you take a sandwich apart, you separate the bread from the ham, from the lettuce, from the hamburger itself, the meat, from the cheese, from the onions, from whatever else you put in your sandwich. Do you understand? If you take it apart, you separate the elements. So you don't do that. If you want to help your friend by giving him a little bit of your sandwich, you take a piece of it and give, you know, a little bit of bread and everything else to your friend. Do you see the difference? So let me get back here. Eudson, they both were fighting. Then I decided to take them apart. I don't know if you can take people apart, but you can bring them apart. You can pull them apart. I would use pull. Pull them apart, right? Because pull means puxar, and you do that. You pull one person one direction and the other person another direction to separate them. So you pull them apart. That's what I would use here. So take apart. When you take something apart, you take an object apart. Let me see. I'm curious now. I want to try to find the other take apart. What do you take apart? You take apart an engine, motor, okay? You take apart the thing and put it back together again, okay? You can take apart a set of beliefs. You can do that by analyzing it. You can take apart molecules. When you take apart molecules, you separate everything, you know, there is in the molecule. You can take apart boxes. You can take apart packets. What else? You can take apart an idea. So you can take apart something that is not concrete. You can take apart a concept. What does it mean? You are analyzing it. Because what you do when you take something apart, look what I'm doing here. I'm researching, trying to find a lot of examples and drawing my own conclusions. My conclusion here is you take apart, when you take something apart, you separate the pieces so you can analyze each part and see how they relate to each other. You see, so it's not a case of two people fighting, because that's not your objective. You're not separating them to analyze, to see what's going on, you know? So it's a whole. It's something that is made of smaller parts, and you take apart all these parts to examine them and to see how they relate to each other, if there is something wrong or not, if you want to learn something. A lot of kids take electronics apart. They are working, they were at least working perfectly well, but the kids take that apart to learn how it functions, how it works, you know. So that's how we use it. Hello everyone who has arrived here. He took a slice of his sandwich. Yeah, a slice would mean you're cutting with a knife, right? You're cutting your sandwich with a knife, and then you have a slice. If it's I'm getting technical here, but if you have, you know what I want to say. I took my cell phone apart. Yes, Kayam. I took my cell phone apart because it was getting on. It was working, right? It wasn't working. So perfect, because you want to see what's wrong. You want to examine the parts, the different parts, and try maybe to fix it, find a solution. Kayam, I took my computer apart. Yes, because it was getting very hot when I use it. Perfect example. Yotson, can I also say put together? Yeah, it's the same thing. No, it's the opposite. Okay, so if we are talking about a piece of electronics, an electronic device here, and you take it apart, what you have is a lot of different pieces on your table, on your desk, okay? Have a lot of different pieces. And then you say, oh my God, I need this clock. I need to wake up early tomorrow. I need it to work. So you start thinking about how to put the pieces together, how to put, how to combine all these different pieces so your clock can become a clock and can work and can wake you up in the morning. Rogério, the war will take nations apart. Yes. And what I understand here is we'll kind of destroy many different nations by, taking it apart, like creating new frontiers, new, how do you say that? Borders, right? I think it's kind of what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, I guess, right? In that area. There are a lot of territories, a lot of countries that were taken apart. I would say torn apart, actually, which is a little bit more violent. Yeah, it's not a little bit. It is violent. When you torn something apart, the process is more violent, and you're not interested in examining what's left. It's different from taking apart. But yeah, I guess you could use in this sense. Take apart a Lego. Yes, Carol, take apart a Lego after you have built something with your Lego. like a castle, like a huge, beautiful dragon. I'm thinking of fantasy things here. Anyway, anything that you have created with a Lego, you have put the pieces together and then you take them apart, right? Very good. So, what else? Did you all get it? Let's move on to the last one. The last one is turn. Oh, have I finished reading? Let me finish reading this. So, I like to take things apart to see how they work. I like to take things apart to see how they work. Do you guys like to do that? Do you do that? Do you take things apart to see the insides, to see how it works? Do you do that? And he used the scientific method to take it apart. And there is, this is a very cool sentence. There is a nanobot. Do you guys know what a nanobot is? There is a nanobot that can take apart molecules and rearrange them in different ways. Rearrange here means to put it back together, right? So there is a nanobot that can take apart molecules and rearrange them in different ways. How cool is that? So very good. This is take apart. And the last one is to turn into. And turn into is a cool phrasal verb to talk about today because we have just, today is November the 1st and yesterday was Halloween. And what happens with, let's say, vampires when they want to fly? What do vampires do when they want to fly? Do you guys know? Do you guys know about vampires? Kayam, I did with the Christmas lights last week. Last week, you're already preparing for Christmas? Cool. Hi, Hoss. So, to turn into, a vampire turns into a bat. Okay, this is what vampires do. Yes, they become a bat. They become, right? With an O. So, Kayam, a synonym for become is turn into. How cool is that? So, to turn into means to become a particular kind of thing or person. To be transformed into. All right? So, vampires become bats or they turn into bats. All right? What else? Could someone help me with the lesson subject? What is your lesson subject? Oh, you mean what I'm talking about? I'm talking about phrasal verbs, Haas. And this is the last phrasal verb today. Hopefully there will be a live stream at this time tomorrow, okay? With more very, very cool stuff. So, turning to some examples with using turn into. You already know it means to become, to be transformed into something. Can you give me some examples? Haas, can you think of an example? How can we use turn into? Hello, Femelo, how are you? So I'm going to give you some ideas, okay, to turn into. So the slight drizzle, chuvinha, a slight drizzle is a very light rain. It's not because it's not countable. It's very light rain. So the slight drizzle turned into a downpour, very heavy rain. Kayam, does that work with emotions too? Like he turned into a very angry person. Yeah, I think it does. I think you can use it in this way. He turned into, yeah. Especially, I would say, if it's for a very long amount of time, you know, a very kind of permanent or very long situation. But not always. Because, for example, in this example, the slight drizzle turned into a downpour. It's kind of temporary, right? It's not permanent. So it doesn't have to be permanent. The situation is turning into a chaos. Perfect job, Femelo. That's it. Excellent. You guys understand Haas, last night snow turned into mud. That is perfect too. Good job. Good job. Wonderful. Hello, Tatiani. So, our vacation turned into a nightmare. Our vacation turned into a nightmare. So, you're already using turn in different, you're changing the verb, right? So, Femelo said turning into Haas. So, you're talking about last night. Last night. So, I want to ask you guys, what is the past of this verb, turn? And I'm going to give you a very special hint. It is not irregular. To turn is a regular verb. So, what is the past of turn? Tell me. I'm not going to tell you. Although I may have already told you. What is the past of turn, which is a regular verb? Good job, Kayam. Excellent. Very good. Very, very good, Femelo. Turn into, how easy is that? How easy is to put these phrasal verbs in the past, right? Most of them are regular. Very good. Turned into. So, our vacation turned. So here we don't pronounce the last E or the only E here. Turned into a nightmare. The freezing temperatures had turned the water in the lake into ice. Very good. I watched it melt and turn into water. I watched probably the ice melt. I watched the process of the ice melting and turning into water. And that hadn't turned into a business. So a lot of examples involving water here. Ice, water, rain. So that hadn't turned into a business until 2 years earlier. So it's easy to use this one, right? Our dog turned into a new family member. Excellent, Kayam. Very, very good job. Very cool. And that's the end of the live stream today. Do you want to practice and write more examples? So what are the phrasal verbs that I mentioned today? Who is here from the beginning? Who remembers? Hello, Mamand. So, for those who have just arrived, can you guys help me and write the phrasal verbs I mentioned today? There were 5. There are 5 of them. Do you remember? The ones who have been here since the beginning, scroll back up and try to find the phrasal verbs, the 5 phrasal verbs. While you do that, I just want to remind you of some ways to take apart. Yes, Kayam. Very good, Carol. Carol, do you remember the other phrasal verbs? So to take something apart, to turn into, oh, sorry, I was just reading myself. Go after, take apart, go after. What else, Kayam? Do you remember the other 3? Well, turn into is the last one. The other 2. It's interesting because these are the most common ones. There is the second one I mentioned today is more technical, more formal, which is to sign on. When you sign on to something, sign on as something, sign on with something, right? And the other one you didn't mention is to. That's it. Turn into, take apart, go after, sign on, and stand up for, which is the first one. It was the first one. Soloxo. Hello. So that's it for today. Thank you guys so much. There are some people here. I don't know if you want to talk. If I do here, many times people tap by mistake, but we have time to speak a little bit. If you want to take the opportunity to practice, everyone is declining. People are a little scared, I guess. Anyway, in my live streams, you can send a request to join and talk with me a little bit. That will be awesome. But that's the idea, that's the format, okay? The live stream will be at around 3 p.m. São Paulo time, Brasilia time. And I will be mentioning around 5 phrases, phrasal verbs, words, idioms, etc. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I love your participation as usual. I love when you're here and practice with me. Take care, Edson. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.